Bhakti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai.
Jai.
Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaur Bhakti Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopal Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki jai.
Jai.
Vrindavan Dham ki jai.
Jai.
Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki jai.
Jai.
Ganga Mai ki jai.
Jai.
Jamuna Mai ki jai.
Jai.
Tulsi Devi ki jai.
Jai.
Bhakti Devi ki jai.
Jai.
Kamaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Gaur Prem Anande.
Hari Hari Bol.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glory to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga Hari Hari Bol. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Shami Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 We're reading, studying, and discussing with Sri Caitanya Caritamrita, Adi Lila. The chapter is the branches of Advaita Acharya. And yeah, there we go. Is Shashi Shekhar there? No?
He is there.
Yes, I'm here. Hare Krishna.
I don't see any native Bengali speakers, so you looks like you're up. You're learning Bengali. You
Yes,
mind?
I don't mind, although in about 10 minutes I have to drive Santana to school.
Okay, so just do
now,
it
just read
for
a
now.
few.
Okay,
Yes,
good.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Text 36. Govinder Agyana Dila Iha Aji Hoite Baulia Bishvash Eta Na Dibe Ashtite.
Thank you. The Lord ordered Govinda from today on, do not allow that Bolia Kamalakanta Vishwas to come here. Purport. The Baulias, or Bauls, are one of the 13 unauthorized sects that pass as followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord ordered Govinda, his personal assistant, not to allow Kamalakanta Vishwas to come into his presence because he had become a Baulia. Thus, although the Baulia Sampradaya, Aula Sampradaya, Sahajya Sampradaya, as well as the Smartas, Jatagoshayas, Ativadis, Chudaharis, and Gauranganagaris claim to be in the disciplic succession of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord actually rejected them. Om Agyanati Mirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurin Militang Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Nama Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitang Jena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Katavayam Dadati Shapandantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Before speaking, I need to get the blessings and permission of the devotees, and especially those who are senior by age or advancement in Krishna consciousness. Thank you. Did anybody do their homework?
Yes, Prabhu.
Oh, good. So here can you summarize what came up to this point with Kamalakanta Vishwas?
Kamalakanta Vishwas accepted Advaita Acharya as being an expansion of Godhead, but still because he had a debt of, was it 300 rupees?
300 rupees, yeah.
He wrote a note to the king to see if he could have that paid off. When Lord Chaitanya heard about it, he was not happy. So your question was, what would we have done?
Yes. What was his mistake?
That he accepted him as, I mean, to think him not capable of paying it off himself. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he's being called, I mean, I think in the purport it was addressed as poverty-stricken beggar.
Yeah, Daridranadai, as a poor person, yeah. Yes. Okay, so then, good. So then, what was your input? Would you have done it differently? How would you have done it differently if you would?
I don't think I would have done it. I don't know. It wasn't easy, but everybody has a relationship with the Supreme Personality, and I would not obviously think of him as Daridra Narayan, especially now that I know. But if we have relationship of friendship or vatsalya, so in a mood to take care, in a need to, again, he doesn't need help either, but just wanting to do something for him, not because, we offer bhoga to Krishna, not because he cannot get that offering on his own. He doesn't need me to offer that to him, but we still offer it to him with love. So
Okay.
in that mode, maybe I would, because if there is something that Krishna would like from me, then I would want to do that for him. Of course, Advaita Acharya is not asking for it, so then that's not in a mode of superiority. And I don't know that if he did it also in a mode of superiority. So that's what I was thinking.
Okay, good. Other devotees, how might you have done things the same or differently? I don't see any hands. No one? Nobody else did their homework? Okay. I admit that this pastime or activity of Lord Chaitanya with his devotee Kamalakanta Vishwas, initially I don't particularly like that. I'm just telling you that it's a little tricky, because you think, well, Kamalakanta Vishwas was just, as you mentioned, Mother Shobharati, he was just trying to serve Advaita Acharya, right? Well, he had a debt, so he wanted to make sure that the debt was paid. That's all. And if it could be paid by the king giving some donation, then that would be beneficial for the king, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So, but of course, at the same time, we step back, and this is Lord Chaitanya's instructive pastime, instructive activity. So we're meant to get information and teaching from this pastime. So anyway, what was Kamalakanta Vishvasa's actual mistake? His mistake was his thinking that Advaita Charya, who, as you mentioned, is an expansion of Godhead, Mahavishnu, is somehow in a poor condition. That's his mistake, right?
Mm.
So we can also sometimes have that similar kind of mistake. We can make that in our mind. We can make that mistake. So another way to address this or to approach this by Kamalakanta Vishvas, and I know this is happening, Lord Krishna, Lord Chaitanya is arranging this for our edification, might be Kamalakanta Vishvas, before he goes to, he sends a note to Maharaj Prataparudra. You know, what he could have done was to ask Advaitacharya, how do you want to handle this? What do you think? I know you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I know you don't have any debts. I know, but you know, there's this thing which I was thinking about this, you know, that requesting Prataparudra Maharaj to cover the debt. Of course, I still understand you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but what do you think about that? And Advaitacharya would have said, whatever.
Mm.
But you know, that would be the first kind of alternative way to do that. In our thinking, does this mistake sometimes infect our thinking on how we're doing devotional service?
Yes, I think the point, I think, is always being humble, not thinking I know all the answers so I can go do it the way I want it done. You know, like you had asked permission this morning before you started class, not because you needed any one of our permission, but you are acknowledging to yourself that I might not know everything. So, you know, so you're
I
humble.
definitely do not know everything.
But I think the point is to always remind ourselves of that. So not make it mechanical, and to make, you know, to remind ourselves that.
Okay. Yeah, so the reason I make that request in the beginning is because that is what Srila Prabhupada recommended in the Srimad Bhagavatam when Vidura was requesting Uddhava to speak on Krishna consciousness, and Maitreya Muni, who is his senior by age, not by advancement in Krishna consciousness, but by age, was present.
Mm.
So he said that should be done, not because I'm particularly humble, because I'm not, but because that's what was requested. So yeah, so asking permission, seeking guidance from the authority, in this case Advaitacharya, in our case, you know, spiritual master, and Srila Prabhupada. What did Srila Prabhupada do in such circumstances? So I would even venture further to say that my mentality and our mentality can sometimes get infected with this idea of Krishna, you know, being not capable and being poor. For example, there may be some examples that you think of, but I know we usually have a Ratha Yatra in September, and almost always, every year, there's a push that why should we waste money on flowers for the Ratha Yatra? You know this? Why should, you know, or if you're going to get flowers, get plastic flowers. You know this? Every year it happens, every year. But following in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada and also Chaitanya Jivan Prabhu, we always say, no, Krishna is not a poor person. Why so many flowers? Because they cost money. They cost good. But Krishna is not a poor person. Therefore, we should not skimp on his services. And if we don't skip on his services, if we offer nice offerings, as whatever is within our means, but at least not skimpy, knowing that Krishna is not a poor person, that Krishna is satisfied. Krishna is pleased by that. I also found a letter that I thought was interesting on this topic that Srila Prabhupada in January of 1977 wrote to all the temple presidents in ISKCON. So he says, now you must arrange in each temple, there must be sufficient stock of prasadam for distribution. You can keep first-class cooks, 2 or 3, and they should be always engaged. Whenever a guest comes, he must get prasad. This arrangement must be made that the cooks prepare 10, 20 servings at a time of puris and sabji, and when you can add halava and pakoras, and the visitors must be supplied immediately. Whenever a gentleman comes, he must be served. As the 20 servings have been distributed, immediately the cook can prepare another 20 servings. At the end of the day, if no one comes, our men will take. So there is no loss. You cannot say, it is not finished. It is not cooked yet. There is no supply for cooking. This must be enforced rigidly. The temple is managed by Srimati Radharani, Lakshmi Ji. So why should there be want? Our philosophy is anyone comes, let him take prasad, chant Hare Krishna, and be happy. Everything is supplied by Krishna. And Krishna is not poor. So why we should deny them? This should be done at any cost. There is no difficulty. It simply requires nice management. So please do this nicely. Begin at once. So in this instance, in Srila Prabhupada, there might have been some reluctance to do so because of expenditures, but Srila Prabhupada, following the same idea, is saying, no, Krishna is not a poor man. We might restrict or not do that because we think, oh, there's not enough. Srila Prabhupada is saying, oh, Krishna is not a poor man. So distribute that prasada. Another way sometimes it infects my consciousness is that when you give a donation to the temple for whatever purpose, you give a donation for Krishna, you think, oh, I've done something very nice. He needs my donation, right? That's sometimes that thought comes to your mind. Oh, I'm doing that, but actually, it's very important. That's the same kind of mentality that, oh, Krishna needs the donation. It's actually for, as you pointed out, Mother Shobharati, for our benefit. We get the benefit. We are very, very, very lucky that Krishna will accept our service, our donation, etc. There's a nice talk that Srila Prabhupada gave about offering to Krishna. I couldn't find it, but the gist of it is that Srila Prabhupada was approaching Krishna and says, please, I have no qualification. I am just a rascal. I am a thief for so many years, but you please accept this. Please you take this. I have there's no other shelter, but you please take this for my benefit. Yeah. So that infected consciousness of being a bowl, thinking that Krishna is a poor person, but at the same time, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is something we have to guard against for our own benefit. Any other comments on this? Oh, Prananath Prabhu has his hand up, I see.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Sorry, I missed the last 15-20 minutes of last week's session, but I'm just trying to understand. So
Oh,
here,
okay, so you're not guilty of not doing your homework. Okay, I got it.
uh, so here, because of Kamalakanta's act, first of all, I understand and agree that the best thing would have been to ask or take permission from Advaita Acharya. So here, Advaita Acharya is not displeased with Kamalakanta. It is Lord Chaitanya who is displeased with Kamalakanta, right?
Yes,
And I was just reading, so Kamalakanta was also a confidential servant of Advaita Acharya, and even Lord Chaitanya, he was also very much associated with Lord Chaitanya.
yes. But Kamalakanta Vishwas is considered a branch of Advaita Acharya tree.
Yeah, and it says here that he knew all the dealings of Advaita Acharya.
Yes, so he knew he was in debt, supposedly.
Yeah, so my question is about, was Advaita Acharya displeased with him?
We don't have any information about that. We don't. It's not mentioned one way or the other. But you can guess that you can surmise that if Lord Chaitanya was displeased with him, then Advaita Acharya would also. Usually that's the case. Of course, this is a pastime.
Okay, thank you.
You know, these are money dealings, and like I said, you could think that, well, say Maharaj Prataparudra, by giving to Advaita Acharya, he's if he gives 300 rupees, then he gets the benefit because Advaita Acharya is God, right?
Mm.
But on the other hand, Advaita Acharya acting, he's a Bhaktavatar. He is God, only he's acting as a devotee. So to get acting as a devotee for getting getting money from somebody for his own personal needs would be suspect. You follow?
Yes.
Yeah. So those extra things are there. So we'll see. We'll see. Now, Lord Chaitanya is, telling Govinda not to allow Kamalakanta to see him again. So that's a strong punishment, and we'll see now. There's more to this pastime also. Others? Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, the word donate itself sometimes is bothersome. But the other point that you made about how fortunate we are that we are able to even do any of these things, that's probably a more important point for us to remember. Anirudh Prabhu, the young man who makes the garlands, sometimes he was saying the other day, Mataji, if this was Chennai, there would be no possibility of being able to do this kind of service at the temple. So he was inviting a friend to come and help him with the garlands. And sometimes the friend comes, sometimes he doesn't come. And Anirudh was just realizing what an opportunity I have, and he won't avail of it. So to be able to do a service, also we should consider ourselves very lucky.
Yes, good point. That's our we should strive for that type of consciousness instead of I got to do this. Duty is good, but also thinking that it's my duty to perform the service. That's important, but also it's a wonderful opportunity to have this duty. Thank you.
My experience is only at this temple. So when he said it like that, it just made me realize it's simply not possible at many other temples. And somebody so young is realizing that he's able to do this, he's taking full advantage of it and not wanting to miss out.
Yes, thank you. Good example. Okay, text 37.
I can give it a shot again.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Danda Shuni Bishbhash Haila Podamadhukita Shuniya Prabhura Danda Acharya Hashita.
When Kamalakanta heard, Kamalakanta Vishwas heard about this punishment by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was very unhappy. But when Advaita Prabhu heard about it, he was greatly pleased. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Samoham sarvabhuteshu name dveshostina priya. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. The Supreme Personality of Godhead being equal to everyone, no one can be his enemy, nor can anyone be his friend. Since everyone is a part or son of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord cannot be partial and regard someone as a friend and someone as an enemy. Thus, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu punished Kamalakanta Vishwas by no longer allowing him to come into his presence, although the punishment was actually very hard on him, Sri Advaita Prabhu, understanding the inner meaning of such punishment, was happy because he appreciated that the Lord had actually favored Kamalakanta Vishwas. Therefore, he was not at all unhappy. Devotees should always be happy with all the dealings of the Master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A devotee may be put into difficulty or opulence, but he should accept both as gifts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and jubilantly engage in the service of the Lord, in all circumstances. Ashlishyava pada ritam pinashtumam adashinam marmahatang karotu va yatata tata vidudanta lampato mat prananata sasu evana para. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prays, I do not know anybody except Krishna as my Lord, and he will always remain as such, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or kicks me, is not present before me, like in this case, Kamalakanta not being present. He is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. For our materialistic devotees like me, if things go nicely, then things go nicely in devotional service, then oh yes, this is nice. I'll be a devotee. I'll do devotional service. But if things get tough, then why should I engage in devotional service? Do something else. That's the tendency in the material world. Or it's sometimes said, Sukha Soni Dukheram. You've heard this? Sukha Soni. When everything is good, yeah, then I'm looking after gold, Soni, and Dukhe. And when there's unhappiness, then let me ask God for deliverance from the unhappiness. So both ways, but a devotee practicing Krishna consciousness, there's gonna be the difficulties and the happinesses, but in either case, he knows or she knows that those happinesses and distresses, the source of them are coming from Krishna. And Krishna says that he's the best friend of everybody, not just some people, but he's the best friend of all of us. So that if he gives us some difficulty, then an advanced devotee can see that difficulty as an opportunity to remember Krishna and to make further progress in Krishna consciousness. This is not easy. This takes this is the practice of devotional service. But Advaita Acharya was able to see this in relation to Kamalakanta Vishwas, that the punishment of Lord Chaitanya was actually benediction. Kamalakanta initially couldn't see that. So Advaita Acharya, we're seeing there's a contrast here. Statement, comments, questions about that? No. Next.
Hare Krishna. Vishpashere kohi. Tumi bhada bhagyavan tomar. Kariya danda Prabhu Bhagavan.
Seeing Kamalakanta Vishvash unhappy, Advaita Acharya Prabhu told him, "You are greatly fortunate to have been punished by the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu." Purport: this is an authoritative judgment by Sri Advaita Prabhu. He clearly advises that one should not be unhappy when reverses come upon him by the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A devotee should always be happy to receive the fortune awarded by the Supreme Lord, which seems pleasant or unpleasant according to one's judgment. There was an interesting pastime that happened with Srila Prabhupada in the early days of ISKCON, where the devotees in New York were trying to purchase a building under Srila Prabhupada's encouragement, and they got involved with a man named Mr. Price, who actually was a con man. So he got from the devotees, the temple president in New York, Mr. Price conned him out of $1,000. And then Srila Prabhupada said, "Did you get a contract for that money? For the, because they were trying to buy a building, so you get any kind of contract for what you get for that?" And they didn't get a contract, so Prabhupada chastised him. He was in San Francisco at the time. So he said, "Don't give another penny. Don't give another penny." But at a certain point, Mr. Price, said all these flowery things and got the temple president to give another 5,000 without any real contract. So Srila Prabhupada initially was quite. When he heard about it, they told him on the phone. Specifically, they did it against Srila Prabhupada's instructions. He hung up the phone on them. So the devotees were feeling bad, but then they realized this is good for us, good instruction. That Srila Prabhupada, we have to be careful. We should ask his permission and make sure we follow his instructions carefully, so we don't mess up. So anyway, then Srila Prabhupada came back to New York and threatened the Mr. Price. He was going to take him to court if he didn't give back the money, and he gave back most of the money. But anyway, the devotees, they learned from that Srila Prabhupada's, the spiritual master's, happiness or even his punishment is a benediction for them, so they can understand how to do devotional service more carefully. Does that make sense? So a similar thing here. Okay. Text 39.
Urve Mahaprabhu More Karena Saman. Tukapai Mane Ami Kailun Anuman.
Formerly, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always respected me as his senior, but I did not like such respect. Therefore, my mind, being afflicted by unhappiness, I made a plan. This is Advaita Acharya saying, yeah.
Mukti Shreshtakari Kainu Vaishishta Vyakhyana Krudahana Prabhu More Kaila Apamana.
Thus, I expounded the Yoga Vashishta, which considers liberation the ultimate goal of life. For this, the Lord became angry at me and treated me with apparent disrespect. Purport. There's a book of the name Yoga Vashishta that Mayavadis greatly favor because it is full of impersonal misunderstandings regarding the Supreme Personality of Godhead with no touch of Vaishnavism. Actually, all Vaishnavas should avoid such a book. But Advaita Acharya, wanting punishment from the Lord, began to support the impersonal statements of the Yoga Vashishta. Thus, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became extremely angry at him and seemingly treated him disrespectfully. Text 41.
Dandapana.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Dandapana Hoila Mora Parama Anand. Ye Danda Poila Bhagyavan Shri Mukunda.
When chastised by Lord Chaitanya, I was very happy to receive a punishment similar to that awarded to Sri Mukunda. Purport. Sri Mukunda, a great friend and associate of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, used to visit many places where people were against the Vaishnava cult. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to know of this, he punished Mukunda, forbidding him to see him again. Although Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was soft like a flower, he was also strict like a thunderbolt. And everyone was afraid to allow Mukunda to come again into the presence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mukunda, therefore, being very sorry, asked his friends whether he would one day be allowed to see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When the devotees brought this inquiry to Lord Chaitanya, the Lord replied, Mukunda will get permission to see me after many millions of years. When they gave this information to Mukunda, he danced with jubilation. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard that Mukunda was so patiently waiting to meet him after millions of years, he immediately asked him to return. There is a statement about this punishment of Mukunda in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Madhya Kanda, 10th chapter. Yes, still there?
Yes. Je danda poil Shri Shachi Bhag Yabhati Shedhanda Prashad Anya Loka Pabekati.
A similar punishment was awarded to Mother Sachi Devi. Who could be more fortunate than she to receive such punishment? Mother Sachi Devi was similarly punished. As mentioned in Chaitanya Bhagavat, Madhya Kanda, chapter 22, Mother Sachi Devi, apparently showing her feminine nature, accused Advaita Prabhu of encouraging her son to become a sannyasi. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, taking this accusation as an offense, asked Sachi Devi to touch the lotus feet of Advaita Acharya to mitigate the offense she had supposedly committed. So how is this a similar punishment? Anybody?
Separation from the mother.
How is it separated?
Because he became sannyasi and she's as motherly feeling she must have.
So what happened was, Advaita Prabhu had two homes. One was in Shantipur and one was in Navadvip, right close by Chaitanya, the house of Jagannath Mishra. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's older brother, Visharup, was young, he used to go over to Advaita Acharya's house and hear the descriptions of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and all those devotees discussing the principles of devotional service. And at a certain point, without telling his parents, he left home to take sannyas. So Mother Sachi Devi, she blamed Advaita Acharya for this. So, not immediately, but later, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in the ecstasy of distributing love of Godhead, Krishna Prema, to the devotees in Navadvip, some devotees said, well, let me bring Mother Sachi so you can bestow Krishna Prema on her, to her. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, I cannot do that. Why? Because she's offended Advaita Acharya. So in this case, the the punishment is not allowing her to have the mercy of Lord Chaitanya in this form of distributing Krishna Prema. Even that's his own mother. He apparently punished in that way. And she accepted the punishment because the devotees, Lord Chaitanya through the devotees, informed her that in order to get free from the offense, she had to take the dust from the feet of Advaita Acharya, who wouldn't have done it, but he was resting, and she did it while he was resting. So So another aspect which might be similar is that in her apparent criticism of Advaita Acharya, she was taking him more as a not as the supreme personality of Godhead expansion, but some more ordinary person, as Kamalakanta Vishwas was also doing. So anyway, those are similarities. But he's saying that who could be more fortunate than she, Advaita Acharya? Text 43.
Etakahi Acharya Tanrekariya Ashbhash Anandita Haiya Aila Mahaprabhupash.
After pacifying Kamalakanta Vishwas in this way, Sri Advaita Acharya Prabhu went to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Prabhu ke kahena Tomar na buji Elila Ama hoite Prasad Patra Kariya Kamala.
Sri Advaita Acharya told Lord Chaitanya, I cannot understand your I cannot understand your transcendental pastimes. You have shown more favor to Kamalakanta than you generally show me.
Amareha Kabu Jena Hoy Prasad Tomar Charane Ami Ki Koinu Aparad.
The favor you have shown Kamalakanta is so great that even if to me you have never shown such favor, what offense have I committed at your lotus feet so as not to be shown such favor? Purport. This is a reference to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's former punishment of Advaita Acharya. When Advaita Acharya Prabhu was reading Yoga Vashishta, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu beat him, but he never told him not to come into his presence. But Kamalakanta was punished with the order never to come into the Lord's presence. Therefore, Sri Advaita Acharya Prabhu wanted to impress upon Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that he had shown more favor to Kamalakanta Vishwas because he had prohibited Kamalakanta from seeing him, whereas he had not done so to Advaita Acharya. Therefore, the favor shown to Kamalakanta Vishwas was greater than that shown Advaita Acharya. So, just a little point, this is not something you want to do at home. You know, start reading the Yoga Vashishta, going to impersonalists to get this is a special lila here. Go ahead.
Etashuni Mahaprabhu Haishte Lagida Bolaila Kamalakante Prashana Haila.
Hearing this, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu laughed with satisfaction and immediately called Kamalakanta Vishwas. Okay.
Acharya kahe ihake kene dire darshan dui prakarete karemore vidhambana.
Advaita Acharya then said to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, why have you called back this man and allowed him to see you? Now he's cheated me in two ways.
Shuniya Prabhuraman Prashana Haila Dunhara Antara Kata Dunhe She Janila.
When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard this, his mind was satisfied. Only they could understand each other's minds.
Prabhu kahe Bauliya Aiche kahe Kara Acharjera Laja Dharmahana Hani Se Achara.
Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Kamalakanta, you are a Bolia, one who does not know things as they are. Why do you act in this way? Why do you invade the privacy of Advaita Acharya and damage his religious principles? Purport. Kamalakanta Vishwas, out of his ignorance, asked the king of Jagannath Puri, Maharaj Prataparudra, to liquidate the 300 rupee debt of Advaita Acharya But at the same time, he established Advaitacharya as an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is contradictory. An incarnation of the Supreme Godhead cannot be indebted to anyone in this material world. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is never satisfied by such a contradiction, which is technically called rasabhas, or overlapping of one humor, rasa, with another. This is the same type of idea as the contradiction that Narayan is poverty-stricken, Daridra Narayan. Text 50.
Pratigraha kabuna karibe rajdhan Bishariya ana kahaile dushtahoy mana.
Advaitacharya, my spiritual master, should never accept charity from rich men or kings, because if a spiritual master accepts money or grains from such materialists, his mind becomes polluted. It is very risky to accept money or food from materialistic persons, for such acceptance pollutes the mind of the charity's recipient. According to the Vedic system, one should give charity to sannyasis and brahmanas because one who thus gives charity becomes free from sinful activities. Formally, therefore, brahmanas would not accept charity from a person unless he was very pious. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave this instruction for all spiritual masters. Materialistic persons who are not inclined to give up their sinful activities like illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating sometimes want to become our disciples. But unlike professional spiritual masters who accept disciples regardless of their condition, Vaishnavas do not accept such cheap disciples. One must at least agree to abide by the rules and regulations for a disciple before a Vaishnavacharya can accept him. In fact, a Vaishnava should not even accept charity or food from persons who do not follow the rules and regulations of Vaishnava principles. So what do you make of that? I think some of you might go out and send kirtan sometimes, right? You get donations sometimes?
Yes, we're going to.
Huh?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
what about that? You only get it from the pious people, right?
Yeah, they'll be smoking and drinking when we give them a book.
Yeah, so then? Yes.
Yeah.
I see Mother Sita has her hand up now just now.
Well, that's only my understanding is that's only if we use it for our own purpose, the donation. If it is for Krishna, then it's different.
Yeah, we may accept, but we have to be very careful to use it in Krishna service.
Right.
Using it for our service, then there's every possibility that our minds will become polluted, like it's mentioned here. Of course, Prataparudra Maharaj was a devotee, but giving this is to give example. He's as the example of a king who's got a lot of money and influence and wealth and stuff like that. So Advaitacharya, even though he is the expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, still his personal debt there. I mean, that would be service to Mahavishnu, but still he's acting as a devotee. So he's giving this as an example of what to avoid, to be very careful accepting charity from so-called materialistic persons. Then, of course, but when sannyasis go begging door to door, sometimes in their, especially early in the sannyas, there's 4 different divisions of sannyas. You probably know this. Kutichak, Bahudak, Paribrajak Acharya, and Paramahamsa. The Kutichak stage of sannyas means the person leaves the village or leaves the home and lives outside somewhere in a secluded area, and somebody brings him food, prasadam. Then when it becomes a little more advanced, why should people come and serve me? So he goes door to door and begs alms like a madhukari. But what about that? He's begging alms. But sannyasi, they'll always offer whatever they might get. They will offer it first to Krishna before taking the food, right? And any things, any extra that they might have, they'll use it for service of Krishna. So the same principle there. But still, taking donations from people for one's own maintenance, that should be that's risky if you take it from, according to this, from materialistic persons. Therefore, when it's said that when Jayadev Goswami was encouraged to take a salary or benefits from the king, he left the Bengal. He didn't want to be obliged and controlled by the king. Questions, comments, statements?
This is not exactly the same thing, but even we have to be careful when we accept donations. I've heard sometimes people will, when they're sponsoring the feast, they'll say, "I'm sponsoring the feast, but here is the menu. This is what I would like made." So sometimes somebody may give a donation and say, "Can you either put a deity or do something that is not the way we do things." So I mean, we also still have to continue to be careful.
Yes. I mean, if someone gives a donation and they want to do a worship of Goddess Kali, then we'll say very straightforward, plainly, that that's not part of our system. If someone gives a donation for the Sunday feast and wants to have gulab included in the menu, in our capacity, we may try to do that. Of course, we may not be able to do it, but we'll try. There's nothing, that's not a material thing. Do you want to offer something nice to Krishna? Well, we want to encourage that part, but we may not be able to do it, but we'll try. And given the circumstances, we may try. A targeted donation is not the same as being attached to material things. No. So I give a donation and I say, I want this donation to be used for the Sunday feast, and the temple says, no, well, okay, we took your donation, but instead we use it for paying the light bill. Well, you got to be, that's not straightforward. And the person will say, they shouldn't be attached. Well, so similarly, the administration shouldn't be attached. Well, but if someone gives a donation for a specific thing, we like that. That we try to accommodate that as much as possible, as much as possible. And if we can't, then we'll tell them, no, we can't. You can't. We won't take this donation for worshiping Goddess Kali. We're not going to do that. Sorry. Or we won't take this donation for whatever it might be. Two different things.
That is the part that I was talking about, because some temples we are noticing now do have other deities. And so are they giving in, or are they trying to encourage?
What are the deities?
Like in Utah, we saw Shiva on one side and Ganesha on the other side. And we saw all those like flags as we were entering.
Oh, I didn't notice the flags, but so we'd have to ask the temple president what is the issue here? What's going on here? Generally speaking, we don't find that in ISKCON temples. We have Krishna and we have Lord Caitanya and we have Jagannath, Radha Krishna. Those, and sometimes there's Lord Ramchandra also, or in it besides, or sometimes you have Srinathji. There are various forms, but Vishnu Tattva. So I don't know. We would have to ask the temple president there what is their thing. There's one time, and I don't know if you remember this, but when we were reading the Mother Jamuna's book, well, the book that was partially written by Mother Jamuna and finished by that Mother Dinatarani, in London, when Srila Prabhupada was doing a kirtan, he said that some of the demigods appeared they came for the kirtan. You remember this?
Mm.
So they said, you put a small seat for Lord Shiva there. He said, I don't know if they did that. And I don't know if he contradicted that or said something else at a different time. But you don't find that in most temples. In Bombay, if you go to Mumbai, they have the deities of Radha Ras Bihari and Gaur Nitai and Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman. And then on the sides, they have all these dioramas. And in those dioramas, they have Ganapati and, Durga and Shiva and everybody. And so sometimes people give donations, but they're not on the altar. They're separate, down, 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 down. In Jagannath Puri, you go and there's Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, and on the side, there's Bimala. Who's Bimala? You know who Bimala? Bimala is Durga. And the system is, what's that?
Parvati Mata.
Yeah. So the system there is that when they offer the prasadam, they offer to Jagannath, and then after offering to Jagannath, then they bring the remnants of Jagannath prasad. They give it there to Bimala. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's given name at birth was Bimala Prasad. That prasad is offered to Jagannath, but also subsequently offered to goddess Durga. So generally we avoid the demigod things, but sometimes there's some arrangement. So I don't know those what happened in Utah. I don't know.
Yeah, I think if we understand the demigods in their position, even I think I cannot remember in which class I heard, but we've been also talking about demigods. Understanding it in that way, I think is right. But if we are not careful, if we start doing services and we start doing things not the way we have been instructed to, because we are trying to satisfy somebody, again, that's also something we should be. That word consciousness, don't do something without giving it thought.
Yes, yeah. Good point. There's some possibility of being deviated from the path, and then certain things go a little bit off, then it becomes more and more and more, and you see 5-10 years you see where you go. Who knows where you go. I was looking at the there's a kirtan. I think I mentioned it in our evening class about where the devotees all were there in a television show called David Susskind show. The David Susskind show. It was the winter of 1971. I was there also, and David Susskind, he talked to devotees. They talked back and forth, and at the end, they have a kirtan, and the kirtan is it's pretty exciting kirtan. But one thing I noticed about the kirtan is there was no Haribols in it. No Haribols, which was very interesting because that was before the Haribols started in ISKCON. Anyway, who knows where it goes. Madhusita, you're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. So my question is, as a devotee, when you make a donation, and and you are, you're saying, okay, this is towards the Sunday feast, right? And then you're saying, can you please also make this and this and this, right? And the administration obviously tries, the cooks, the pujaris who are cooking, they try and they can't, or they can. As a devotee, what should I'm not talking about, a lot of people come and sponsor Sunday feast, and everyone has a different idea or for different things. But they're not all really following Srila Prabhupada's, Krishna consciousness, ISKCON, the 7 purposes, and haven't taken shelter or anything. But if there is someone like me who has, who is trying to be a devotee, what should my mood be? Yes, I can ask and request, and then if it happens or if it doesn't happen, should I go, point fingers again and say, hey, why didn't this happen? And I had given for this and you didn't do that. Like, what should my mood be as trying to be a devotee?
Which are you taking the position of the administration, or are you taking the position of the donor?
Donor.
Okay. Well, of course, a donor, when they give for something, they understand this is Krishna, but there should be a good communication between the donor and the recipient, so that there's a good understanding of what is expected.
Right.
If there's I remember way back, I had a whole thing written out about giving donations for the Sunday feast. I said, if you have any special requests, please put those there. We'll do the best we can, but we may not be able to do it. We'll try, if that's okay.
Right.
If that's okay, then please, sign here, blah, blah, blah. I don't, maybe that's being done now, maybe it's not, I don't know. But for the donor, if that's what we expect, okay, you'll try your best. You'll try your best in these things. Okay, if that's okay, then fine. If that's not okay, then don't give the donation.
As a devotee, I
Yeah.
am asking a question as a donor, not as a
Well, that
person
might
who's
be your
receiving.
that might be your you might go to, which happens sometimes, is they'll say, well, I'd like to, it's my mother's marriage anniversary or death anniversary or something, and she really liked paratas, and I really want to have paratas done so her memory, and you'll say, well, we can't do paratas. Well, okay, they don't have to do. So as a devotee, I say, well, maybe I'll find I could donate that Lakshmi to Delaware Temple, and they'll make paratas, or Central Jersey Temple, or whatever. If that's, they really want to do that, or you could take it. Well, I just want to have that prasadam. In any kind of prasadam is really okay. I just was hoping that it depends on the devotee's interest. Either way is okay. Either way is okay. I'm not no fault is being no. We don't have to point fingers, but if the capacity isn't there, say I want to have gulab jamans, and they say, well, we don't have our cooks out here today. We can't do the gulab jamans. Okay, that's fine. Well, can you just make halva? All right, but then on the other hand, if it's really essential, their mom was like they said, please, in my will I wrote, make sure that they have. When you have a feast, they make sure there's gulab jamans. So then the person may say, okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate your efforts, but I'm going to find or I'm going to have maybe the Central Jersey Temple will make those gulab jamans and blah, blah, blah. So it could be either way. It's okay. Either way is okay. It's really okay. I'm not going to try to force them into my thing. Or we're not trying to force people to do it. But if they can't do it, someplace else can maybe.
Right. Okay.
Okay. I think it's time. How far do we get? We get 51. We're on page 51. Oops. Okay. Thank you very much. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya patitanam pavanebhyo vishnavebhyo namo namaha. All glories to Lord Chaitanya. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Advaita Acharya, and Kamalakanta Vishwas even. Yes, Kamalakanta Vishwas. Thank you. I see Shashi Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hare
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.